it's very unusual. I can't remember a time that this has happened before. It makes a lot of sense that North Korea would have tested something after South Korea did their SLBM test last week, but it was very surprising to see them go back to back this time.
Do you see this as a message, perhaps, from Pyongyang? I mean, as we've been talking about just a few days earlier, DPRK said it had twice tested a new long-range cruise missile, the first such weapons activity in 6 months. So I guess my question to you is, why now?
Well, I think there's probably a number of factors at play here, and one is that Kim Jong-un did set out goals for its ballistic missile and nuclear capabilities at the beginning of the year. I think one is just a sign that they are moving forward with that. And we should expect to see more along the lines of the goals that they set out. But two, they've definitely been watching South Korea's actions as well. And like I said, with South Korea testing the submarine-launched ballistic missiles last week, and coming after the military exercises went forward as well, I think this was very much sort of a response to Seoul and the actions that are coming out of Seoul that are incongruent with a lot of their peace rhetoric and their wanting to get back to inter-Korean relations.
Interesting. What do we know? Does anyone know anything about DPRK's capability in terms of developing nuclear warheads that can be mounted, small enough to be mounted on a cruise missile?
Well, certainly North Korea has been working towards miniaturization capabilities. It was, I think, largely accepted that they most likely had miniaturized warheads that would have fit on their Scud missiles, on their no-dongs, and so certainly they're capable of it. Whether or not they've done it or to what degree that they've done that is really questionable. It is one of the things also that Kim Jong-un talked about in his goal set for the next 5 years at the 8th Party Congress earlier this year was to work on more miniaturized warheads as well as conventional warheads going forward.
Jenny, where do things stand with negotiations, or I should say stalled negotiations? Where do we go from here in terms of diplomacy?
Well, I think this is one of the really big problems of putting the ball in Pyongyang's court, as the U.S. has said over and over. Yes, there is an open call for resuming negotiations anywhere, anytime, but without any specific expectations as to why, what will they get, and especially in the short term, what are some potential short-term outcomes. And if you're the North Koreans, after the failed Hanoi summit, that they put so much stock into in building that expectation and getting basically nothing tangible out of it, I think they're going to be very reluctant to come back without a greater expectation that short-term outcomes are possible, and certainly not without, as we're seeing now, increasing their leverage before they come back to the table. And so I think this is not necessarily surprising to see them do this before they answer any call for negotiations to try and increase their leverage when they do come back to the table. And I think the cost of everything is going to go up at those negotiations as well.
And very quickly, Jenny, you mentioned leverage. As North Korea's biggest trading partner, many consider China to have a lot of leverage. What should Beijing be doing?
I think Beijing is doing what it should be doing in terms of encouraging all sides to get back to negotiations. But I think it's just that much harder, again, when South Korea is also testing ballistic missiles that North Korea is not allowed to test. And I think it's just a very difficult argument going forward that North Korea should give up these capabilities when other countries are not.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Jenny Town, thank you.